Thanks for joining us here on a Tuesday. I'm Marlin Bohling with you, watching your ag commodity trade. We like to check in on different parts of the country to see how the crops are coming along, and it's no different today. We're going to check in here at the mill in Whitehall, Maryland, where we have Ben Hushon standing by. And Ben, thanks for joining us here today. I understand you're kind of looking forward to the corn harvest there. I know you had sent us some video here in the last couple of weeks of some guys chopping corn. But boy, corn harvest can't be that far away.
It isn't. Good morning, Marlin. It's not too far away. Silage chopping pretty much wrapping up, and grain harvest will begin. I know the Eastern Shore, they've already begun some high moisture, 22% corn. In our area, we're still probably 7-10 days away from that, but we're getting ready.
Okay, so I know you had sent some pictures of some ears of corn that you had taken here just recently. I guess they're kind of representative of what you're finding out there. But what are you telling guys to keep an eye out for here as they get ready to let the combines roll here?
Well, that was a great lesson. An employee, actually, Alan Cornbower, brought 4 ears. And for the listeners that can't see the pictures, they're 2 ears, big ears filled out to the tip, and 2 ears that are tipped back probably 10-15% from being filled out and not quite as big around. And he said, hey, boss, tell me, should I plant the variety on the left or the right next year? And I looked at it and I said, well, that's pretty obvious. And he said, well, here's the news. It's the exact same variety planted 11 days apart on the same farm. So if you wait until the yield monitor tells you which variety is the winner on your farm, you may be missing the lesson. We just suggest before you get that combine out there, walk in these fields, because there's nothing wrong in this case with the variety. It's just nature happened to deal what was planted a little bit later a tougher hand on pollination. So just again, encourage people, don't just rely on the technology of that yield monitor. Get out in that field ahead of time and see what's going on.
Everything is the luck of the draw in timing, isn't it?
It sure is. And everybody has told me my whole life, and I'm sure the listeners and viewers hear the same thing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Not just multiple varieties, but multiple planting times, and spread that risk out, because we dealt in this community with 2 weeks of dry, hot weather all summer, just 2 weeks. And those 2 weeks happened to land when some varieties were pollinating. So it doesn't mean the variety failed. It just meant that it didn't quite coordinate with this summer's weather.
Mm-hmm. And just real quickly here, I know you have a crop showcase coming up this week.
We do, Marlin. It's an exciting time for us. We started focusing less on seed corn and bean varieties and less on chemicals and more on fertility about 7-8 years ago. Chris Weaver came up with the idea, and now we've got a team of guys that bring it forth. We're doing some high-yield soybean fertility, in-furrow versus pop-up fertilizer for corn, and also continuing along the sustain and sustainability track. We've got Dr. Greg Roth from Penn State coming to talk about split applying nitrogen and kind of confirming some of the things that we're seeing with using Adaptan. And a new twist this year, Dr. Stephen Mirsky from USDA is going to come after lunch and give a talk on cover crop short-term benefits. We all talk about long-term. He's going to talk about short-term benefits that they've learned at USDA Beltsville.
And that's coming up this Thursday. All right, thanks for the heads up on that, Ben. Can't wait to hear what was covered after the fact. I'm sure you'll have photos you can share with us next time. Appreciate it. Ben Hushon happens to be with the mill in Whitehall, Maryland. Stay tuned. I'll come back in just a moment, and we'll walk through all your futures trade on grain and livestock when we come back. Well, Well, again, thanks to Ben Hushon of the mill in Whitehall, Maryland, for all the information as they get ready for corn harvest in that particular mid-Atlantic region. I want to point out a couple of things, making some big moves here today. We'll start out this segment here. I want to touch on the value of the U.S. dollar. Lots of talk about that here recently. Of course, it's had a big decline in the last month or so. Right now, take a look. On the dollar value, we have September futures down 400 points at 92.360 now. December down 390 at 92.140. That's significant. Now let's take a look at the crude oil market. We heard earlier there was a big surge in the Brent crude market this morning, and that pulled up the West Texas crude that we're showing you here. October futures now at 48.72, and now all of a sudden it's up $1.43 on the day, only 6 cents from its high of the morning session here, leading the pack. The nearby contracts leading the bull run here on the crude oil trade. Deferred's not quite that strong. However, it's incredibly interesting to take a look at the heating oil trade. Here you have October actually down 0.7 of a cent at 173.9, or we'll round it up to 174 a gallon. So here, just like last week, where you had the crude oil market going down and the energy markets, the distillates going higher, now you're seeing a little bit of the reverse of that here this morning. We're hearing stories of maybe some of the refineries starting to come back online this week, but at the same time, the crude oil market is surging. And of course, if they do go back online, that does mean increased demand for the crude products. So that would help explain some of that here this morning. All right, now let's go take a look at the grain trade. On the grain markets, on the corn, we have September 3.5 higher. Your December is trading 2.5 higher this morning at 357 3/4, kind of in the middle of our trading range of the day. That's been running about 5 cents wide. Now, if we look at the soybean market here in the first hour of trade, we have September now 9 higher, and now November is surging ahead. It's up 14.5. 9.64 per bushel. That's within a penny of its high of the day. We're off our low by almost 12 cents now. January up 14.5. Check that. Now 14 3/4 higher at 9.74, and that happens to be on the high of the day right now as we look at it live. Let's take a look at the wheat trade. How's it doing so far this morning? In Chicago, we have September 10.5 higher, but again, these are all in delivery. Keep in mind, December is 4 3/4 higher at 443.5. We're about 3 cents away from our high of the session. Let's take a look here at the Kansas City market. In Kansas City, December wheat, we're at 442 1/4. That's up 3.5 cents on the day, still 3 cents off of our overnight high. If we take a look at the Minneapolis wheat trade, we have December down 2.5 at 629 1/4. In that Globex trade last night, it did trade weaker while the other two were higher. Cotton market has really surged this morning. Look at them go now. We have December basically limit up about 300 points higher at 74.87, with Irma bearing down on the southeastern U.S. Look out. It could be very critical next week. Looking at the livestock trade, live cattle market right now, you have the October up 3 cents now, December 15 higher at 109.62 after trading weaker the last half hour. It opened firmer, sold off, and now it's making a second run here. Feeder cattle trade right now, you have the September up a dime, but October down 25 now at 143.30 per hundredweight. It's bouncing a little bit too. And on the lean hog trade, they went soaring out of the gate this morning. October up $2.05 at 63.50, and December up $1.63 at 59.68. Huge moves in the lean hogs. Cattle are gyrating around both sides when change.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be an exciting week.
Yeah, you look at that high of the day as well. It's going to be an interesting day.
Wow.
We'll keep watching. Markets editor Marlin Bohling.